Now, I've heard a couple of pronunciations. I've heard you say your actual last name is Burket, but
Burket.
okay,
Burket is 2 T's.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
But I've heard everybody here calls you Burket.
right. But I answer anything.
Right.
All right.
So it is Burket. I was
Burket.
right.
Yeah.
Welcome to Sonar Tech Skills.
Join Reagan Lipinski and Kyle Default as they travel the world training police, fire, and military professionals in side-scan sonar. With decades of combined experience in the location, documentation, and recovery of underwater criminal evidence, they are now sharing that knowledge with you. Learn right alongside first responders as you too can master the world of sonar.
Well, we're here with Bill Burket at the 19th Annual Search and Rescue Conference here in Hampton, Virginia. So, Bill, just introduce yourself and a little bit of background on where you came from and where you started.
Yes, sir. Hey, Bill Burket. Lived in Virginia Beach my entire life. Basically, I spent 31 years in the Virginia Beach Fire Department, and I work for the Virginia Port Authority since 2010 full-time. I retired from Virginia Beach Fire in 2010 after 31 years. Now full-time with the Virginia Port Authority, and my position here is the Senior Director of the Maritime Incident Response Team and Business Continuity.
Okay. So, this conference, how did this all start, and what agencies and everything started this off, and where do you see this going in the years to come?
Well, you know, the SAR forum started, it was 19 years ago, of course. This is our 19th year. So 2006. The first one was held at Sector, Virginia. Back then it was called, Sector, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a one-day event, and the Coast Guard put it on, okay? But you know, this is well after 9/11, right? Port security grants and other grant funding sources started to come available. So what I recognize is we started to see multiple first responder boats being purchased, police boats, fire boats, and those type of things. And a lot of agencies within the Port of Virginia started to purchase these things. And I said, it'd be nice to get us all together one time, just to, you know, like some type of, back then I thought was going to call it a rodeo, but just to work together, to network together, to see each other's capabilities. Well, after that initial SAR forum that the Coast Guard put on, I approached them, we chatted about it, and we decided to expand it from a one-day event to a three-day event. And for the next several years, it was held in Virginia Beach, you know, that's my city, that's where I worked, and all the connections I had within the Lynn Haven Inlet area and the marinas there, that's where we held it for the first 3 years. And it started to catch on with a lot of the local response agencies here in the port. And then we soon realized that we needed to expand it, all right? And coming to this facility here in downtown Hampton at this Marina Hotel has really been a jewel in the rough, so to speak, because the facility to have access to bring your boats in, tie them up right at the hotel, and then walk and go right into the meeting rooms and the conference rooms and the restaurant and the hotel room. So it really enhanced the ability to put this type of training on, and it expanded from 3 days to 5 days.
Right.
Okay.
Well, as a former officer, I can tell you that it's been a very big benefit for all the boat crews and the officers that are in this general area. And it's expanded where you have officers and firefighters from other states coming in now. So what advice would you give to any agency or region that would like to start a search and rescue conference similar to this?
Well, that's a good question. And we're starting to, my perspective, or now that I work for the Port Authority, and I've been involved in some high interest events, such as the fire that happened up in Newark, New Jersey, aboard the Galmaldi vessel, where we had 2 deaths of firefighters up there. Got involved a little with the Dooley event that struck the Key Bridge, okay, in Baltimore. So we recognize that from a national level, all ports, you know, what are they doing? How can they do things to enhance the preparedness and the response and the recovery from an all hazards event in the port? All right. Now, I will say our agenda has certainly expanded, and I'll get more to about what else they can do because, you know, the name search and rescue form, you know, what we've come to learn is not just about search and rescue, right? We certainly expanding to all hazards. And I think what that does, it helps draw in more folks or more interests from a broader perspective, right? For instance, this week, we're about to kick off active shooter training aboard a vessel, right? For our law enforcement agencies, how would you clear a vessel? If you have a dinner boat in your port and something unfortunate like that happens on a dinner boat, what's the law enforcement going to do, right? Who's going to be the first boats out there? Then you get the mass casualty piece, right? The triage, how are you going to get the folks from the vessel to shore, or do you just move the vessel, right? Just basic boat handling. You know, and what we come to find out, there's a lot of our first responders or boat operators that show up, especially here, are not used to running in the harbor at night. So with all the backlights and those type of things where things blend. So we're really exposing them to new territory. But what I've seen, the most beneficial thing, and I think ports or agencies should realize this, is your networking piece, right? Getting to know one another, you know, getting to understand what capabilities a Norfolk Fire Department or a Norfolk Police Department has and compared to Newport News and Hampton. Just multidiscipline, you know, multi-agency is pretty important. So one of the best things you can do is start networking within your port, reaching out, talking to one another, all right? And starting to work through this process, okay? And what's been nice this year that we had several folks show up from out of state, Florida, South Carolina, Rhode Island, Maryland, okay? They're here to see some of the things that we do. Now, look, what we do isn't the only way, right? So, but I think over 19 years, we have certainly developed some best practices. And I am confident that if you're in a port community, you really have the same resources available to you. You just got to work through them. Just take a breath, look around and see what's available. But what's most important, you have to be willing to reach across the aisle. You have to be willing to reach out to your partners, right? Because we're not in this game together. And I know sometimes first responders, we get territorial. This is my agency. This is my city limits. I got it. Well, folks, in the marine environment, in the maritime world, if you stay with that mentality, you're going to find yourself in trouble. Okay? So start the networking. Start pulling your resources. Start looking out there for those individuals who really love to do this, who are committed to this, and that could really help you get things rolling.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Bill.
Okay.
Like I said, you're an icon around here in these parts, so thank you for your time and for the interview.
No, and again, there's agency folks like you, when you were back at Norfolk PD, and also the company you work for now, you guys are the ones that really help us make it happen.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Bill. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. Thank you for your time.
All right.
All right.